Many thanks, Stephen Media, for bringing us up to speed with the traffic situation at Sir Apollo Kagwa. Of course, we do hope the diversions can be well done away with as soon as possible. That means the construction, or is it rehabilitation, that is ongoing can end anytime soon. When you look at some of the videos that we see online, when Chinese companies or Japanese companies do undertake construction projects, it's amazing. Some of the sections, including or that are like the ones at Sir Apollo Kagwa, can be finished in a single night. The fact that we can take a week, 2, or even 3 is a damning assessment. Let me return to the studio and get on with our Kickstarter conversation, one that is going to look at the current situation in the country that is, of course, being given the events that have been happening or developments. It depends on how you look at them. The governance question and the shaping up of the politics ahead of 2026. Many say people are taking positions, including those in the opposition. Welcome to the program, Joseph Ochieno, seasoned political analyst and usual suspect. How are you?
I am very well.
Usual suspect on MorningAtNTV.
Usual suspect at MorningAtNTV, and I can't be complete without being UPC. I'm delighted to be here.
All right. That is the real Joseph Ochieno being true to form.
But Chris, some of your decent producers were saying that they hadn't seen me for a long time.
I haven't seen you for a long time.
Yeah, but if a long time is a few weeks, and I was already feeling it's a long time, it's still a pleasure to be here. Your
a few
program
weeks
is
in
fantastic.
politics. A few weeks in politics
Fantastic
is a long
program.
time.
Not only that, but actually, while we've been away, so many things have happened. So
yeah.
I'm delighted to be here with my
No
colleagues.
doubt. Captain Francis Babu, senior citizen.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
How are you?
I'm good.
Are you all right?
Trying to be.
On this day,
Trying to be.
when a man called President Mahama
Dramani.
is the new president of Ghana, he was a president before. I've
Yep.
known him. He's a very good leader, and we wish him the best. And of course, that doesn't stop me from congratulating Spire Sentongo for having been with Nancy Pelosi in the States, receiving a very big award.
Okay.
For writing such good things about corruption.
About corruption.
Recently I've been learning a lot of English. The lawyers are really using fantastic English words, and even the write-up. There's one who wrote something about Ip Man. Ip Man is a soap opera.
That's right.
By Golden Harvest. Ip Man 1, Ip Man 2, Ip Man 3. And he was narrating it as the new president of the Uganda Law Society.
Uganda Law Society.
Then
The radical bar.
then after that, another gentleman is a professor,
Okay.
called him Trump. So really, I'm enjoying this. This is a season of learning English.
Siraje Kifampa, what is happening in your season?
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure for me to be here, and more especially being on a panel with senior politicians and senior citizens of this country. Good morning to you, everyone.
I'll be coming to you very shortly, especially in regard with the emergence of a new political vehicle on the scene, the Democratic Alliance, one that holds the actors or entities that were part of the Holy Alliance that you announced at the beginning of the year. But allow me go to Captain Francis Babu and allow you to bring us up to speed with your take on developments that have put the rule of law into question and basically brought to the front rule by law. That is the circumstances surrounding the legality or illegality of the court-martial of the Uganda People's Defense Forces and its inability to allow a certified, competent legal practitioner from within the region to be able to practice here because of her motivations, apparently.
You've asked me something which is extremely loaded.
You've been learning a lot of English.
Yes, it is loaded.
Yeah.
First of all, let's separate it. There's the military court, which is a court which is established by the
An
Army
Act of Parliament.
Act of Parliament. Then there is the argument of civilian being taken to that court. Then there's the third one of our neighbors, friends joining to join other lawyers to work together.
That is right.
I don't want to talk about the court because I sometimes find this thing sub judice, a very complicated thing. How far can we go when we're talking about things like this? First of all, the court is established by law. You might not want it, you can give it a name. I've been hearing them, I've learned kangaroo court, I don't know what, but the court is there.
Yeah,
and
established.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now, the point we are talking about of civilian and non-civilian, it becomes part of the case. And I would not like to go into it because the little bit I learned when I was a member of parliament is you don't interfere with things which are already in court.
Yeah.
So I would like you to allow me not to go to that, but we can talk about our friends, the other members, the advocates in the neighboring country coming.
And their ability to smoothly
come and join
within the country.
To come and practice.
Yeah. And on that note, I want you to look into the fact that the Law Council has a very specific reason as to why it cannot issue a practicing certificate to Martha Karua. Apparently, her work is politically motivated.
No, that's one of the reasons. No, they gave several reasons. They say that she did not fill the form very well. That the law firm here, which was supposed to have followed the procedure of filling the form.
Advocates.
Yes, and then they talk about the political motivation. And then, of course, they talk about other things. But technically, I think there's been a lot of talking and a whole baloo about this. But I want to bring something very interesting. The law societies of East Africa are unions.
That is right.
And those are the ones who make law that foreigners within a certain area should come and ask for a temporary license to work in their countries. So these unions are the ones who have put down that bar. Secondly, and this is extremely important, before we broke up the East African, East Africa, the universities and whatnot, the lawyers who graduated in Dar es Salaam could practice throughout East Africa in those days. I don't know why they changed it to begin with. Why did we change it? All those lawyers who went to Dar es Salaam at that time before it became the 3 universities and so on and so forth, actually practiced throughout East Africa. Now, that's another point. Instead of fighting over this unfortunate thing, why don't these lawyers practice throughout East Africa? We are a community. And then we can call it now. The council, the Law Council, is a regulator. They regulate everything within the legal fraternity. The question is, should they be forced, or they have a procedure they must follow? Now, we've been hearing a lot from one side of that story. I would like to hear, because the head of the Law Council is a High Court justice. The lady is a justice. And the secretary wrote something and gave it. Now, and this was on the 6th when they wrote back and said, listen, you did not do this very well. Can you, redo it? They never did. So the question now would be, and I don't want to take, that's why I told you this is a rather difficult thing. My point is very simple. The Law Council should have called the person and said, listen, come here. There's a few problems here. Can you please correct this? They never did. And the chambers that she was dealing with did not follow it through. Now, there's something they said in there which is very interesting, is that the local chamber was using city council address, and that it was a public service, a public servant. The public servant thing came out. And that question I've been asking for years. members of parliament who are lawyers and members who are in council, can they practice at the same time when they are leaders? In the constitution it is there. They are not supposed to.
They're not supposed to.
So this whole thing now came out. Then, of course, she ended by saying, there's a political motivation in this. And actually, with a lot of things that were said, even before it was approved, there was a lot of canvassing.
That is right.
And these are lawyers who are supposed to have etiquettes, a certain type of etiquettes. Now, whether the Law Council was right or wrong, they being the regulator, I think they should sit down, and I think the chambers that invited the
Lukwago and company advocates,
they should go and sit down with these people and find out what the problem is.
Okay.
Now, and by the way, I've had this problem when the new party, PFF, is it? The one which FDC, the second part. They went to Electoral Commission, and the Electoral Commission said, no, you have to redo this. It is not done very well. A lot of things were said. And then I came actually in one of this, I said, but please, Electoral Commission, call these people and sit with them. And actually they did. Not because of me, but they had already done so.
Had already done so, yeah.
And they found the answer. Now, nobody has sat down with the Uganda Law the Law Council and to understand these points they have made. All they have done is to go to public media, and they have said so many things, and they have called them all sorts of names, and somebody has threatened, I think it is the Kenya Law Society.
Law Society of Kenya.
Say that they will not allow Ugandan lawyers.
Apparently,
now, there's a
going to ban. They are seeking a ban.
There's a Kiganda saying that when somebody is killing, is slaughtering an animal, the animal has a tendency to look at the guy who is going to remove the skin rather than looking
the
at
guy who actually
is going to kill it.
Took it.
So what is happening is, I think they've got the wrong person. It's not the lawyers who are causing the, but if you think it is going to make it a political
okay.
interest. Now let me end by this.
Please.
Let me say this. This whole thing of jogging the government of Uganda and using it as a route to reach the government of Uganda, we should be careful about this, because the government of Uganda is not going to give in. And Andrew Mwenda, I think, was on one of those programs, and he said, Dr. Besigye and Museveni are the same people on either side of the coin. When one does something, the other one comes on the opposite side. Now, I listened to that very carefully. And I said, wait a minute, what is he saying? What is he saying? What basically he was saying is that both of them know whenever they push each other, it's the same coin on both sides.
Interesting there. Maybe we will also be compelled to do our own digging so that we can understand better how these two men are two sides of the same coin. Kizza Besigye has consistently been very categorical about the fact that he does not agree with pretty much the conduct of governance that President Museveni has embarked on for the last 35 years. But like I say, that is an opportunity for digging for another day.
But tomorrow is Kenya's Independence Day.
Ah, no doubt.
The 12th of December.
Joseph Ochieno, it seems that the politics has overtaken the legal aspects in this particular case, and it's convenient for all parties to play the game within the public or the media space. Does it work for them? Should it work the way they want it to? Because in the run-up to Martha Karua's coming to Uganda, Lukwago areas, that is the honcho at Lukwago and company advocates, pretty much was in the public and spoke about how this is going to be the trial of all trials. We are bringing a captain to this, and you know, he kind of set the stage to let the Law Council go on the defensive.
I think possibly what is more interesting is what Mr. Francis has just said, that possibly we are experiencing a battle of two elephants, Comrade Kaguta and Comrade Besigye, and that the grass continued to suffer. Now, whether those grasses are the ordinary Ugandan citizen, and now the average Ugandan judicial system, or possibly Kenya that has been dragged in here, is a battle between the two. But I think what is significant to me is not those details that we're discussing. It's a fact that today happens to be the 11th of December, and on this day in 1980 was the second day of voting, December 10th and taken into 11th, in which a multi-party elections did take place in this country. That UPC won convincingly, that led to the UPC 2 government. And interestingly, after those elections, 6 weeks later, Mr. Museveni went to the bush. I think a week later, Dr. Besigye followed him and others to the bush, making an array of claims and allegations, nearly all of which they've sort of failed to substantiate. But what's important is, if part of that was then a dispute about a political failure that could not be resolved judicially, and that took these guys to go to the bush to seek that they wanted to bring a sense of law and orderness that includes a judicial system. It's extraordinary, isn't it, that on this day we are discussing the fact that Kizza Besigye, a former Museveni ally, was effectively kidnapped from Nairobi in Kenya and brought into Uganda, and instead of being taken to a civilian court, was taken to a military tribunal that we know, according to the NRO's own judicial systems and rules and statutes, is a court that tries disputes between an army commander and a junior, serving army commander and a junior. Basically, that is what it is, nothing else. That any military officer that is retired must be tried in a civilian court. So two things. One, Besigye was kidnapped from Kenya and brought to Uganda. And the process that should have been taken if Besigye had committed an offense in Kenya, is that Besigye should have been the responsibility of the Kenyan security services. That is right. Taken to a Kenyan judicial process in a civilian court of law in Kenya. And that if Ugandan authorities had anything as a matter of concern about
then the process of extradition.
There's a process of extradition that should have taken place. That did not happen. In any case, the first responsibility of a Ugandan authority, if a Kenyan has been arrested in Kenya, or any other country, is that the Ugandan authority, I expect Mr. Museveni's government to guarantee an instruction to the diplomatic community, Ugandan diplomatic service in Kenya, consular services, to go and give support and necessary assistance to Ugandan who has been arrested in Kenya. So if somebody is, that is what they should be.
The ideal situation.
That is what it should be. And I'm saying that after 1980, and you go to the bush and you come and you want to bring that, that is what I expect of a Ugandan government today to be doing to any Ugandan citizen. That did not happen. Bringing Besigye back, which was actually brought illegally and unconstitutionally, actually criminally, and then you take him to a court-martial. Now, interestingly, we're having the discussions around Martha Karua and the details, literary details of her letter and the Law Council's arguments. Interestingly, if part of it is a judicial argument, it turns out, interestingly, that apparently the guys at the court-martial, apparently these are soldiers, and apparently, I'm told, none of them, if any, are necessarily lawyers. So it's possibly not surprising that on day one, I could see an army officer with a Lukwago on the other side, and the guy was physically demonstrating his argument in terms of body language, rather than intellectually, critically making a presentation. That is really the sad thing for me. So basically, that is what is on trial. So the Ugandan judicial system is on trial, but the Ugandan state is on trial. But most importantly, it's extraordinary what and where it has put and placed the Kenyan authorities. And finally, the point that Captain Babu says about our relations as East Africa, yes, the founding parents of this East Africa, in heaven, they're feeling very sad that a Kenyan has got to get a certification later. And I was telling one of the producers much earlier that these are things as a matter of formality should not have happened as part of the East African community of that time, where ironically, the father of the new East Africa is the president of the Ugandan state. So maybe that's one of the things they're going to do very quickly, that by end of next year, you do not need to get any certification in order to practice whether in Uganda or Kenya. But otherwise, instead, we are basically taking ourselves back.
Okay, interesting how this particular development can or will not provide an opportunity for Uganda's legal structures to reform and ensure that the ability of officers, lawyers, and anybody else who is working within that space can do their job pretty comfortably. What do you see happening after this whole encounter and development that has Martha Karua in the eye of the storm?
For starters, it works to the advantage of Martha Karua not being given a practicing license in Uganda.
You don't say?
I'm saying so. Why? One, you're saying the other one is a military tribunal, a kangaroo court. So when they give you a practicing certificate to go and practice law in a court that you don't believe in? So I believe this is politics at play.
Okay.
And it's unfortunate that the Uganda Law Council also fell prey of the politics that is at play, because the best thing they would do is grant her a practice certificate to go in a court, because Dr. Kizza Besigye, first of all, does not recognize that court. That's why he refused to apply for bail in that court. So he will be kept to be brought back and drama be seen, played in that court, not until a political solution is reached to see that probably Dr. Besigye is out of that court. Secondly, I don't know what President Museveni was calculating. One, President Ruto is taking you as his godfather. Because when you see the way how President Ruto talks when he's in front of the big man, the way how he idealizes President Museveni, with the problems that Ruto is having in Kenya, a person who won with only 200,000 votes, or thereabout.
Very thin victory. The
problems he's having with the church today, the problems of firing or whatever, impeaching the deputy president, and the issues that you're seeing in Kenya today, the demonstrations, and there's so many other problems. You go and kidnap someone in the capital, and you bring him to the so-called court martial here, and prosecute him from here, and the Kenyans there are looking at Ruto as a very weak president who can allow mercenaries, as they call them, because I've been watching on Kenyan media houses, mercenaries coming from Uganda
and operate freely, to
come and operate freely in Nairobi and the lake. So I don't know, with the 200,000 votes that President Ruto won with in the last election, and the problems that are coming up every other day, and your icon, your idol, is also adding to the burden. I see him as a one-term president in Kenya. The other thing is that when we come back to politics here in Uganda, I don't know, because Kizza Besigye would be arrested in Uganda because he was not a fugitive. He went in Kenya on an official visit where he had been invited to a book launch and went through your airports, went through their airports, and you go and kidnap him in another country. So I think diplomatically that brings a problem between Uganda and Kenya. Mind you, you remember the CDF once wrote on his Twitter handle that it would take him only 3 weeks to go and overtake Kenya and overrun Kenya, and he would even get a home in Highlands, Kenya Highlands there. I don't know whether those tweets are still up there. And the president had to apologize because the Commander Land Forces by then had issued such threats to an independent sovereign nation like Kenya. So when we see the father doing what the son was promised to do, going to Kenya, kidnap people, bring them here, and Kenya does nothing in the way of protest or complaining or fighting anything in praise of what was done. So I think there is a lot more than what meets the eye.
Okay, interesting.
In fact, as a matter of interest, I must say, I was genuinely very, very concerned being a neighbor with Kenya being at the border, that in the event that Kenyans got extremely angry and said they needed to take preemptive strikes because Uganda had already threatened them, that we, the Bakidi, would be victims again of an event in which we had no part to play. But we are relieved. There's no sign of that.
The political endgames between Kenya and Uganda play out in a very narrow space. I wouldn't really see a major escalation of tensions between Kampala and Nairobi on account of what Mr. Siraje Kifampa says. There must be how things are going, that we can be able to go there and do as a one-time commander of land forces said. I think it's all chickens coming back home to roost. All right, let me transition from the court-martial and everything that ought to be happening there that isn't, and look at other developments, including the formation of a new political vehicle on Uganda's political landscape or scene, the Democratic Alliance. Now, many of us who have a good reading of history...
Do you mind if I gave you something in the East African Treaty? On this thing we've been talking about.
Okay, before we transition.
The relationship between Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania.
Please, be quick on it.
I wanted, the Article 124 is very clear. Regional peace and security.
Okay.
And in Article 124, Regional Peace and Security, number 5 says, the partner states agree to enhance cooperations in handling of cross-border crime, provisions of mutual assistance in criminal matters, including the arrest of repatriation of fugitive offenders and exchange of information on a national mechanism for combating criminal activities. To this end, the partner states undertake to adopt the following measures for maintaining and promoting security in the territories. A, enhance the exchange of criminal intelligence and other security information between partner states' central criminal intelligence information centers. Enhance the joint operation, such as hot pursuit of criminals and joint patrols to promote border security. Now, the reason I brought this one up, a lot of people have been saying a lot of things, and
that's very good context.
No, I want to give you what the treaty says.
Yeah.
A lot of things in intelligence never come out. When intelligence has done their work, they never come out to tell us what they have done. I wanted to say this, and by the way, I like to beg my brother and others, please let us not talk about our neighbors and talk about their politics, because it's not polite. We can talk about Uganda as much as we like, but to start interfering in other people's political things and we're Ugandans is not good. And
maybe we should be allowed to offer context in order to understand developments.
Yeah, but you don't talk about their leaders the way you do. You have to be very, very careful, because it can go into another level that Ugandans don't like us, Ugandans are this. I think we should be a little bit more polite.
All right, perfectly understandable.
So, your question now is on the vehicle.
On the new political vehicle. And the reason I'm talking about it in that sense is that there have been attempts before for opposition to come together in unity in order to uproot, as the mantra has been, the national resistance movement. The Democratic Alliance is a loose confluence of many of the actors that have, in my own words, and this one is mark it, who have failed to take or put their feet down in any other establishment that is political within the country. It comes at a time that is timely for them. But do you see an alliance like the Democratic Alliance offering the kind of unity that the opposition wants in 2026?
Again, loaded. I like your questions really. You pack them up.
It's because you're Captain Babu.
Let us go to your question. First, in management, when you liberalize and you open a floodgate, a lot of companies are formed, a lot of... so in this country, we have liberalized, a lot of parties are formed, and every day another new party can come up.
That's right.
What happens when these parties come up, technically, they begin to sense wanting to work with others. And in management, when there are so many, it's called a shakeout. They shake out and they start getting together. It's natural. For them to increase their strength, they have to form alliances. In other places, they are taken over by other parties. Well, you've seen it in a country which is, like I told you, a country which is our neighbor. They've been having a lot of parties, but they normally come to an alliance when they are going into elections.
You owe us to that country's name.
No. I prefer to respect them. They've got.
You're talking about them in good stead, so it's okay to mention.
No. It's my method of work. I prefer to give them the respect they deserve.
Okay.
They form parties, and these parties get together and they form alliances to go for elections. They don't remain as one. If you look at the 2 elections they've had, people have got together because of the shakeout. A 1-man party, 10-man party, a big party. They get together and they form a coalition, which then goes into the elections.
That's right.
Now, in my sincere opinion, they are free to do so. If these people want to form a party and coalesce together and come up with one bigger, strong party, there's nothing wrong with it. It might work, it might not work. It depends on a lot of things. To me, I think we should encourage them. Personally, I think parties are formed basically, really, on ideologies. The basic ideology most of us learned were 2. There was a communist party on one side, there was capitalism on the other side, and as you moved forward, you came out with the socialism, and therefore an ideology which goes towards either side of those 2. Now, if these parties are formed because of some of these ideologies, and they can get together and coalesce into one of them, coming out with a good ideology, I think it's good. I think it's technically it's good, but
and feasible.
Unfortunately, our political class here do not get together to form a party of ideology. It's convenience, and people get into this because they want to get something else. I've got people who went to a party because they wanted to be elected. You should
After
go
the
to a
election.
party. Yeah. You should go to a party because you believe in the ideology of that party.
Okay. Siraje Kifampa,
yes.
The formation of the Democratic Alliance comes hardly months after the Holy Alliance came together. And if Captain Francis Babu's words are anything to go by, do you see anything happening as far as the new formation is concerned? Can it get away from the other interests that individuals do have that could have conveniently led to the collapse of your own alliance that you came up with earlier in February?
Now, for starters, the formation of the Democratic Alliance was long overdue because owing to the fact that issues had been in Noob and the same actors in the problems that were there in Noob are the ones that are forming the Democratic Alliance. Of course, it was expected that people will have to part ways and form their own party. But if you listened very well to the speeches that were made in Emirembe, well, at the launch of the Democratic Alliance, you realize that they were driven by anger and disappointment and frustrations because the entire speech or the entire function, they focused on one party, talking about this, talking about
in your reading, they focused on which party? And I have to insist that you name names.
It's like they were like disappointed
in what?
In Noob.
Nope.
And all the people that came on the floor to talk, they were talking against Noob. They never mentioned about the sitting government that they ought to challenge. So I believe there is nothing that they are going to change. Secondly, Captain Babu tries to bring to context that there are countries that form so many political parties. At the end of the day, they come and form coalitions. Coalitions have failed in Uganda. We've had several, right from the FOC, we came to TDA, there was IPC, and so many others. I'm telling you, the fact that Uganda political actors are looking for selfish interests in the politics of Uganda, how do I become a member of parliament? How many members of parliament can I secure for my party so that I can also get a share of the money that is being given out by government and through the electoral commission, and many other things. Those are the things that are driving them not to change leadership. I just wanted to say one thing. Someone was asking me that if you went to a politician on the opposition side, sat him down and say that you're a member of parliament, you have two options to choose from. You leave parliament and President Museveni leaves the presidency. Or you stay in parliament and President Museveni stays in the presidency. What position will they, what will they choose? They would rather stay in parliament and President Museveni stays in power, other than having new leadership coming in, which cannot guarantee their being in parliament. So I believe the reasons for the establishment of the Democratic Alliance was not the variation in ideology from their former parties. Secondly, the people who formed the Democratic Alliance already have their own political parties that they registered. They've not deregistered them.
Like the word, the nomenclature is, it's an alliance.
And I'm telling you very soon, because the declaration that Honorable Puga made was that very soon they are going to the Electoral Commission not to register them register as an alliance, but very soon you're going to see the collection of signatures, registration as a political party, and many other things. But the same people have got their own parties that they registered. They've not deregistered them, but just tell me, why do they register a new party when they also have parties?
Maybe that's a question we should push to Joseph Ochieno as we wrap this conversation up.
I mean, Captain Babu is right. The right to belong to and to form political parties is what we fought for since July 27th, 1985. And I'm delighted that many Ugandans have joined the UPC into this, including DP, who had gone to the other side to help ban political parties, that we are together now. People can go ahead and form political parties and belong to political parties and organizations of their choices. But that said, some of the members of the new alliance are my friends, and we've been in the trenches with them, decent people. I wish them well. I argued around the time of the split of FDC that we do not need really new political parties in this country. We need more leaders. You know, we don't need more political parties. And on the basis of actually what has just been said, no. I think politics is around ideologies, around issues, around values. Unfortunately, at the ban of political parties in January 1986, by the time we managed to compel return to pluralism, body politic had moved towards individual merit business-related kind of stuff, in which it was basically about me, myself, and I, and what did we get out of it. And I think, unfortunately, that's where we are. If you count legitimate political parties in the democratic opposition, there are so many, you know, with very decent men and a few women. And you wonder what really do they represent and what will the new formations create. In any case, I know at the beginning of the conversation you were hinting, leading us towards looking at the next election. I hope we don't look towards the next election. It's extremely urgent that political party leaders in this country, up to and including those in NRA, NRM, we begin to have a conversation coalescing around the national interest, and that maybe whatever's happened and is happening to Kizza Besigye and others should really be a sign that, well, our country is broken politically and that we need a cohesion around which we can agree on a post-Museveni agenda. I think that's what's urgent. Naturally, I argued when Besigye formed FDC at the time, even as well as the time when it was actually the mainstream primary political alternative versus the then weaker UPC and DP, that he should really have gone back to one of the political parties, particularly perhaps DP. That the fewer political parties we've got, you know, and particularly opposition political parties, and the clearer the leaders we have, you know, the more likely we shall be seeking coherent leadership, the less divisive it will be. But most likely, the more apparent it will be that national interest and real urgent national issues are discussed. So I really hope that at some stage, amidst all these formations, and while they have the right to be able to do so, that Ugandans begin to recollays around the issues that Captain Babu is saying, and see that where the political party of the left mainstream is UPC, and people should really rally around UPC, notwithstanding all the challenges that we have. And that the political parties of the rightist ling is possibly was DP, and whatever else, including FDC, whatever they do, rally around those issues. And NRA, NRM, and NUP, whatever the position they've said, we look through around the issues and galvanize. If we're able to reduce ourselves to maybe 3 mainstream political parties, even post Mr. Museveni, we shall be playing policies of issue. For the moment, I think my hope is that a post Museveni Uganda is going to be led by the traditional political parties, but with an emergent leadership that is nationalist, that learn less of the past, learn less of the challenges of NRA, NRM, but are interested in pushing the majority of Ugandans, who are predominantly young people, to a future which really the desire, not only as a country, but as a region, and indeed as a continent.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph Ochieno. Thanks to Captain Francis Babu, and many thanks, Siraje Kifampa, for the perspectives and submissions on the current state of affairs in the country. These 2 aspects that we have touched on, I hope the audience out there has been emboldened in the understanding of matters, and maybe the decisions that are going to be made moving forward will be decisions made on a real understanding and knowledge of issues at hand. It's been a pleasure having your company on behalf of my colleague Priscilla Regina Naloga, and indeed the team behind the scenes that ensures these 2.5 hours are as exhaustively informative as they are. It's a job well done. I'm Chris Higenyi. I'll see you guys tomorrow.